animations. So Walt Disney said, "Animation can explain whatever the mind of man can conceive." And that's not really very relevant to this video. CSS animations, there's something that would seem like a massive ordeal trying to learn animation in CSS. Like you'd have to learn a whole bunch of libraries, a whole bunch of new properties. It would be like this whole additional area of learning. In truth, it's not completely the case. You can do a lot with very simple set of properties. The majority of things really are transitions. If you think about most cases in web where you want to just transition something simply, it would be like opacity. You want something to fade in, fade out, maybe a slight color change, maybe ever so slight movements of something. Most of those can be done with just a simple one-line transition property. Beyond that, if you want something actually proper motion-based, you could learn some keyframe animations. But again, the syntax is fairly straightforward. We'll do some quick examples. So I'm going to make a link. So make a quick anchor tag. Click me. And we'll target it, make it inline. So let's set the color to green for fun. And let's say the font size is 20 pixels. Okay. Then we have an additional setting on that for the hover state to say when hovered, the font size is 24 pixels and the color is red. Yeah. So predictably, what happens when you hover, you get that kind of jump and change, and it's a bit jolty. I mean, all you're trying to do with animation in CSS is you're just trying to make everything just feel more smooth, more seamless, just trying to improve the end user's confidence in the product they're using. And you just want things to feel slick because it just suddenly gives people a greater emotional response to what you built. So this can be done. You add transition, we add a property. So let's do this firstly with font size, and then a time 200 milliseconds, very small. Now if you transition, see the color change is still instant, but there's just a slightly smoother jump between the two things there. That's nice. If we change it to all, it just means any property that changes, so long as it's sort of a numerical value. Animatable properties, so it's not going to easily smoothly transition its position type or its display type. These are kind of more clunky things. You could do this with slight transform things to make things move up, down, move around. So you can do a hell of a lot. In fact, almost all kind of required transition types or animatable things you want on a page can be done with as few lines of CSS as that, like a few basic properties. If you did want to go one step further, you want to actually build an actual custom animation, of which you could go into quite a lot of depth. This is the very, very low level version. So instead of that transition, we're going to set animation. Let's do like a spin, make the thing spin round. So you give your animation a name, because you've got to go define it somewhere. We could call it spin, and then a duration, 4 seconds. And down here, we set it, it's called keyframes, then your name, and inside that block, we're going to define what this animation does. I'm going to do the very simple one, which you can just set a from and to. So from transform rotate 0 degrees to 360 degrees. Boom! You've got yourself a spin. Now it just spanned the once, so we'll add an additional property on here of infinite. That way every 4 seconds it will continue to spin. You'll notice there's just a thing where it seems to slow down towards the end. The default, it has some sort of easing built into it, so if you make it linear, there we go. We've just got a simple 4 second rotating spin, which again is not a horrendous amount of CSS to have added to get something that complex happening on a page. Instead of the from to, you could go to different breakpoints. You could do things at different percentages along the way and make something much more smooth. Obviously, you can start playing with different animation libraries, which will basically have a preset bunch of kind of cool animations that have worked out all the motions and the easing to make something really nice, bumpy, bouncy, jumpy type thing. But really, that's it. Like, if the idea of doing CSS animation has always seemed really scary and daunting, like, where have we got to? 15 lines of code, and been able to build a rotatey, spinny text in hardly any time. So, one to check out. Thanks for the time, guys.